everybody, and welcome to Wake Up College Basketball presented by 4 Points Travel Reinvented. My name is Dan. This is Tyler showing off. We got buys, tries, delts. It's all there. It's all happening. You're all ready.
Got to be ready.
So, welcome to Wake Up. It's a fun set. Tom Creed's right there, so you know you're in for a good time.
Got the Fab Five right there, so you know you in a good time.
Yeah, we are not that. We're not that fab. That is a fab level that we cannot attend to. So, what we're gonna do today, and this is good. This is so much better without Ryan. I got to tell you.
Listen, Ryan Nanny is not the type of person that you really want on a set like this. All
Absolutely.
Right? You see, you gotta, they say upgrade you. That's what you got right here. Much better than Ryan Nanny.
No argument from me. No, absolutely no argument from me. So, what we're doing today is we're going to figure out the storylines from each region. We're going to figure out the fun players, I would say, from each region. The coaches that we trust perhaps the most to overachieve or to get their teams to a special place, and the first-round matchups that we're most looking forward to. We want high-quality first-round matchups. I would say first round to me, as somebody who's not fully invested all year long and just really zoning in on the tournament, that's the most fun time.
Yeah, the first round has a lot of different memories that, really get us going. And like memories that we love, like Dunk City, who killed Georgetown a few years ago in the best city in America, Philadelphia. Like, those are the kind of things that we remember when we think of the first round, how crazy and frenetic it is, bracket busters, and moments that, like, you tell your friends about it at the water cooler or the sandbox or really whatever you do. I don't know what people do, like whatever y'all do, like after work and stuff. So that's the things that you talk about. You don't really talk about those memorable Final Four games all the time. You get super, super, super hyped for Dunk City, Andy Enfield, dunking all up on Georgetown.
I like that they were the most entertaining team to take a ticket, like, hey, come beat Georgetown early. Come beat Georgetown early. Dunk City was that year, Florida Gulf Coast. I liked when Lehigh, love the Patriot League, took down Duke, C.J. McCollum, just going crazy, going nuts. I think he had 30 in that game. That's fun for me. Let's start with storylines this year, because we've got stars, we've got great coaches, we've got teams coming in super hot, we've got teams trying to get over the hump. I know we're going to talk humping. No, we have to talk humping.
It's all about hump.
It's all about humping. So let's start in the East. Obviously, Duke comes in, perhaps playing better basketball than anybody in the country now that they're fully healthy. They obviously had a ton of talent, considered like maybe the best team in the country going into the season. But to you, Villanova, and as much as it may pain you, is the story.
It hurts me.
Maybe trying to repeat. They have Josh Hart, arguably one of the best players in the country. What is it about Villanova trying to do it again that is most intriguing to you?
That's the thing. Villanova doesn't get the opportunity to even get past the first or second weekend most times, right?
Yes.
So to see Villanova coming off a national championship, on top of the fact they have maybe the player of the year with one of the best point guards in the country in Jalen Brunson, a bunch of shooters, Dante DiVincenzo and Chris. Like, there's plenty of players. McCall Bridges, who's really a Swiss Army knife and can do everything. You have so many great players on this team. The question will be not necessarily repeating in an easier level of the bracket, but how much can Jay Wright do to coach his team? Jay Wright's a great, great recruiter, but there's been some moments where we don't know if Jay Wright's going to be the guy to really lead his team through. There was a GQ article where the team basically barred him from the locker room going to that North Carolina game last year.
Yeah.
So Jay Wright is somebody who's kind of sat back a little bit and has let his team work it out, which is a great philosophy for some coaches. But I want to see these rotationary changes and these switches that Jay is going to do to make sure that Villanova is, again, the best team in the country. Some would say.
Will it hurt you right here?
It hurt me right up in here. It hurt me right up in here.
I believe
right up in here.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's go to the West. We mentioned the word humping. We're not going to let you down because we have two teams out West trying to get over that NCAA tournament hump, excuse me. So we've got Gonzaga, who really hasn't gotten past the Elite Eight, and Arizona, same, under Sean Miller, another coach that a lot of people feel like great recruiter. When he goes up against a really good coach in the tournament, that's where he seems to falter. So of those two teams, who's more intriguing as they try to get over into the next level?
I don't even know if it's more intriguing at this point. They're equally intriguing, but I would probably pick Mark Few and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
They've got a great team with Karnowski and Nigel Williams-Goss. Like,
great
there's plenty of players, again, for this Gonzaga team to stack up on teams. The difference, though, is that this isn't the WCC. This is March Madness, so we need to see and need to know at this point if Mark Few can really make it over the hump with all of these Gonzaga teams that are great. Like, he barely loses in the WCC. I think they lost one time this year, so this is kind of the moment. We always see Sean Miller get to the Elite Eight.
Right.
Let's see if Gonzaga can put the pieces together to not only become a national powerhouse again, but then have some lasting power, some consistency, and Mark Few can maybe even get a better recruiting class to say, we're not just the big dogs out West.
Right.
We're one of the big dogs in the country.
Period. Yeah, Arizona's intriguing to me. I mean, we'll talk maybe a little bit about Lauri Markkanen momentarily, just because they don't have Trier early on in the season, and once they get him back from, why he couldn't suit up, they were a different team. And so getting over that hump, they lose to Wisconsin a couple times in the tournament. They need to make that move this year because I would say region-wise, bracket-wise, it's really advantageous. They're in that 2 slot that Oregon would have been in if they had won the Pac-12 championship, and it is a nice road in that region.
Easy
so,
road.
absolutely.
Super easy road.
It's incredible. All right, let's go to the Midwest where Oregon is, and they're the number 3 seed. So speaking of easy roads, Kansas, real nice. A real smooth, recently paved road. But to you, the heat that Michigan comes in with right now is something that intrigues you.
Michigan has had an absolutely horrible week before their conference tournament started. Like a completely disastrous week. We're playing in practice jerseys. You know, it had a plane crash, but out of nowhere, this is the thing of lore that we always hear about.
Yeah.
A great point guard play. That's a scrappy team that shouldn't be anywhere close to a championship, and yet here's Michigan again. Derek Walton on top of Zach Irvin and Duncan and players who kind of aren't really where they should have been at this time of the year. We thought this team would be so much more this year, and they're finally putting the pieces together at the right time. And the only thing you need in March Madness to be great is great guard play. So Derek Walton, who's shooting over 40% from 3 and has a great crossover and can manage a team and pace this team, let's see how dynamic Beeline's team can become as they go into March. With kind of a simple first-round matchup that can maybe guide their way all the way to it. It only takes one spark to get hot for the rest of March.
And that'll be a tough matchup if they face Louisville in the second round and that ridiculously dynamic defense. Something to pay attention to with Michigan, though, their defense is suspect. As well as they shoot, that's how poorly they guard against the 3-point shot. And in games that they've allowed, I believe the number is 65 points or more, they're 4-10. So they're going to need to be able to D up because if the shots aren't falling, they need to win somehow.
Michigan only been good 1 week this year, so.
That's true. This is very fair. And Kansas, speaking of a team that is complete and more complete than Michigan, the road is nice. What do you like about Kansas?
Frank Mason, the third place every single minute for Kansas. And the thing about it is, without Frank Mason the third, or if he gets into foul trouble, this Kansas team's not as good.
Right.
They have maybe the best guard in the country, and you're playing him to exhaustion. So if he doesn't play, you're not going to be as good. Devontae Graham can move the floor, is a great defender, a great wing defender on top of the fact that he can shoot threes. Brandon Lucas cannot get into foul trouble because there are no other front court players for Kansas. On top of this guy named Josh Jackson, who's going to be a top 5 pick and doesn't shoot the 3-ball that well, but can stretch the floor enough on some jab steps, attacking the triple threat, and then hitting to the basket in a way no one else in the country can. A stacked team from 1 to 5 that can switch defensively and really do a bunch of everything. So Kansas is one of those teams that can be a Final Four national championship caliber team as long as a few of those things keep rolling.
Right, and Frank Mason is on the floor late.
And Frank Mason plays 40 minutes a game.
And Frank Mason plays 40 minutes a game. Let's go to the South because the star power very high there as well. Because we've got North Carolina, we have UCLA and Kentucky, all in the same region. This is the killer region. UCLA, though, has to be, and this is crazy to say, with Kentucky and North Carolina in a region, UCLA is the story. Can their overwhelming offense, can the star power of Lonzo Ball overwhelm everybody they face in the way that they overwhelmed Kentucky early on?
We talk about great guard play. Let's talk about Lonzo Ball.
Let's talk about the virtuoso.
A guy who people think might be the second coming of Jason Kidd. A guy who has a really lanky jump shot, but you're kind of telling him not to change his jump shot because he's hitting these step-back threes from 30 feet. A guy who can facilitate maybe the best in the country, rebound with some of the best forwards in the country, and is really a do-it-all point guard in the greatest sense of the word. And it's bringing Showtime back to L.A. So with this UCLA team, this was a team where the coach was on the hot seat a year before. The team completely turns around. Bryce Alford looks like J.J. Redick almost. You have Thomas Welsh, and you have T.J. Leaf, and you have one of
you got a Holiday.
You've got a stacked team, not only from 1 to 5, but plenty of bench depth. So if I was a betting man, UCLA wouldn't be the team that I'm going to bet against. However, there's going to be a point where this team slows down. And we see these same performances that we saw when USC almost beat them a 25-win team, where they're almost getting beat up by Dillon Brooks in Oregon. So the guard play has to, like always, the guard play has to be the first thing. You have to just let Lonzo cook. Let Lonzo cook and get the hell out of his way.
Yeah, their defense, I mean, it has improved over the course of the season, but early on, because they play so many freshmen, there are freshman moments. And they let Oregon back into the game in L.A. They lose late to Oregon and Eugene. Obviously, they lose to Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament. So can they sort of mature very quickly if things get tight late? That's the question.
And if it gets tight, get out the way and let Lonzo cook.
Absolutely. All right, let's stay on that topic. Let's stay with star players. Let's go back to the East. I have a player not on a top 4 team in the East. Shemi Ojeleye, SMU. Have you watched him play it? Have you watched him play?
Shemi Ojeley's dirty.
He's real good. He's an NBA body. He has an NBA game. He plays a ton of defense. He is the leader of this team. He can beat you in so many different ways. He is somebody to keep your eye on. If SMU is a team, what they go 30-4, they're a ridiculous team, not super tested. They played Cincinnati a while ago, but they can beat Duke. Sure, absolutely. That's how confident I am in Semi Ojeleye and watching him more and more that they have a legitimate star.
It'd be a great storyline too, having a guy who transferred from Duke because Coach K wouldn't give him any minutes to say, hey, fam, I'm out here doing 18 a game. I'm out here blessing up. So why not?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Who's your player in the East?
Speaking of Duke, it's Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum is a guy who was injured early, but has maybe been the best player in the country all of March. Has scored over 24 times, 4 times in March. Has been flirting with some double-doubles in March, and has showed the hell out because Jason Tatum is maybe the best player in the class right now. Might be the best freshman playing right now, especially with Dennis Smith Jr. not in, with Markelle Fultz not in. Jason Tatum is a guy who, yes, Luke Kennard is maybe the best player on Duke. Grayson Allen has had some moments where he's hit 20 a game this year. Energy guy, but is going to start and is going to play well in transition and probably end up in the last 10-ish to 8-ish minutes of the game, be your go-to player. And I wouldn't want to guard Jason Tatum in the last 8 minutes of a basketball game.
Yeah, we're talking about players we're like, oh, you have to flip to this game. This guy is just completely, it's a clinic. Jason Tatum is putting on a clinic. That's the guy on Duke.
Jason Tatum's going to dunk. He's going to spin. He's going to hit almost every single move. A little step back, one-legged Dirk jumper. He's got a lot of talent and a lot of things in the toolbox that he can use offensively to really keep his team going in momentum when Duke has those spells where they're not going to score well, where they're missing a bunch of threes, where there's foul trouble for Emil Jefferson. So he's the X factor for Duke, especially in the starting lineup as they're shifting away from Grayson Allen and more towards Luke Kennard and Jason Tatum.
Where's your X factor out west?
X factor out west? Who's out west, Dan?
That's a great question. Arizona, Gonzaga, Notre Dame, West Virginia. Is that where Florida State is?
That is.
Bacon?
Out west is Dwayne Bacon.
Okay.
This Florida State team has Elite 8 talent, Final Four level talent. Leonard Hamilton is one of the best recruiters in the country. And Dwayne Bacon is somebody who hasn't necessarily been the best player on Florida State, but is the guy next to Nathan Reyes and the guy next to Jonathan Isaac and others that you want to get him the ball and you want to get out of the way. You want to see what he can do in the last few minutes of a game. You want to see what he can do as far as guard play. And he is a mismatch nightmare, especially at the 2 guard, the off guard, the wing position. Dwayne Bacon can take over a game, and he can take your best man to the hole.
Absolutely, and he's sort of like that positionless college player. That it works in college. We have no idea if it'll work in the NBA, but he is, you're right, a total mismatch. For me, I'm going to stay on that theme. Lauri Markkanen, Arizona. What, he's at 7 feet tall, hitting 43% of his three-pointers. He's like 49% from the field.
The Porzingis of the desert.
He is the Porzingis. He has an unblockable jump shot, and I think he will be the X factor. He is the difference for Arizona that they haven't had in years past, and he is the reason why I think they ultimately get to the Final Four. There it is. There it is, going out on a limb. Let's go to the Midwest. Who do you like coming out of the Midwest? A lot of stars. I mean, you mentioned Frank Mason. Do you want to touch on Mason a little more? Anybody else?
It's really Frank Mason.
Yeah,
this is
FM3.
This is the Frank Mason show. This is the spin cycle. This is the guy who can shoot from deep. Frank Mason can really do it all, even though he's a compact, kind of gritty, scrappy point guard. And scrappy in the way of like coming up in the Baltimore City courts and just playing out there because his dad would drive him out there a bunch of times. They lived in the burbs. Like Frank Mason is a great guard. Maybe the best guard. Maybe the player of the year. But the thing for, as we said before, the thing for Kansas is if Frank Mason's off the floor, Kansas ain't winning basketball games. So Frank Mason absolutely is probably the biggest
difference maker.
A huge difference maker for this Kansas team because they're good with Frank Mason. But as we've seen in that TCU game, they're going to need every single piece of the team led by Frank Mason, not just him scoring 35 on an undermanned team. They need him to have help and not be out of breath in that 40th minute.
So I'm going to be the homer. I'm going to go with Dylan Brooks of Oregon, the Pac-12 Player of the Year. Hits 2 huge game winners over UCLA and Cal, and especially now without Chris Boucher, who's out with a torn ACL, the big man. I think Dylan Brooks is the emotion, is the sort of heartbeat of this Oregon team, and Oregon plays sort of small. They have Jordan Bell, who's a great big man, but he's at like 6'6", he's playing power forward. He's guarding bigger dudes, but they're spreading the floor, and if Dylan Brooks, he's an energetic guy. If he's going, everybody's going to feed off of this for a 3-seed Oregon team with not a great road, but if they get Louisville, you're going to need somebody with his sort of stature to get past a really good defense like that.
That boy going to dunk on your team.
Yes,
that boy is going to dunk on your team.
He is absolutely.
And your family going to have to cry about that. They're going to have to figure that out. That boy is going to dunk on your team. Ain't nothing you're going to be able to do about it.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Quack.
Let's go. I like that. See, he's wearing the green. He's quacking.
See that?
I knew I liked this guy. Let's go to the Southern region. Obviously, this is Lonzo Ball's region, but we both looked at this region and said, you know what? we need to talk about somebody else. Who is that somebody
Lonzo
else?
Ball ain't the best player in this region, man.
Who is that man?
Malik Monk,
Yeah.
young Lepanto, Arkansas himself.
Yep.
Mr. I shoot squirrels with my BB gun in the backyard. Mr. Lepanto, Arkansas, Malik Monk. There's no other dynamic scorer in America playing right now than Malik Monk.
You're right.
He is the best scorer in the tournament, and he's going to let you know about it. He can shoot from anywhere, one dribble pull-up, mid-range pull-up, a variety of tools from the elbow on back. Like, he can shoot from 30 feet, he can shoot from 5 feet, and he's going to dunk in transition. As good as a player as Jason Tatum is in transition, Malik Monk might be a step better, a little bit faster, a little bit smoother towards the rim, and then you can't guard him.
Right.
Kentucky likes to play these elevator screens where they use him off these screens and come around the top of the arc, and he's going to be able to do anything from there. Triple threat, jab step, or go to the strong or weak side and really just show off that muscle. He is the smoothest guard you're probably going to get at the wing position right now in college basketball playing in March Madness.
Yep.
You're not going to bet against Kentucky if this dude is scoring 30 or 40 a game.
He is the singular player that somebody will tweet out, turn to TNT. This guy is going off. He's the only player in the tournament that you have to watch if he is going off.
Malik.
And the problem is consistency. He will go 2 or 3 games in a row and look amazing, and then he will disappear. But when he is showing up, there is no player like him in college basketball.
The thing about Malik Monk is he's like Popeyes.
Okay.
If your order at Popeyes comes out bad, it's not Popeyes' fault. It's your fault.
This is true.
So if Malik Monk is playing bad basketball, it ain't his fault. It's Kentucky's fault. You're just going to have to get through that.
I like that philosophy. I like that philosophy very much. Let's go to the people whose fault it is. Let's go to coaches. Let's start in the East. Which coach to you would you have the most confidence in, maybe down 5, 3 minutes left, to put together a win late?
The Zen Master himself.
Who's that?
Mr. Jay Wright.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily for Jay and the Villanova Wildcats about, being down. It's more so about the philosophy, these Jay-isms that he's instilled in his team from the beginning. Shoot them up and sleep in the streets. That's all they do. They're setting screens, motion offense, and they're shooting threes. They're shooting baskets. That's the only way Villanova has known how to play since really their last Final Four appearance way, way, way back in the
Identity. They have that identity. They believe in the identity, and they play to it consistently.
All of their players believe in that identity, from Chris Jenkins to Jalen Brunson, Daniel Ochefu last year, who said in that same GQ article that, it didn't dawn on him at first, but it grew on him being a 4-year player. The greatness about Jay Wright is not necessarily that he's a good coach.
Right.
It's more so about the ideology he's put in his players and the faith that they believe in this specific system.
Yep.
That's what makes Villanova good. Lockdown defense, wing defense, and switching that motion if they get penetrated in the beginning. So
it's hard for me to argue against any of that, but I'm going to go Tony Bennett, and this is why. It's unwatchable basketball, what Virginia plays. It's completely unwatchable, but it's believing that identity. Who wants to play against Virginia? Who wants to try to win a 54-52 game? Everybody gets so frustrated. His players believe in it. He's had a couple NBA players recently in Malcolm Brogdon and Justin Anderson. They're gone. They still have London Parentes, and they beat North Carolina recently. They're not the team that they were, but again, it's that identity thing. He gets a buy-in to play unwatchable basketball, and I respect that he is able to generate so much success doing it.
And that's the thing about Tony Bennett's team is that if you look at his teams over the years, it's some strong dudes who play for Tony Bennett.
Yeah,
they got some great coaches there.
Yeah, no, absolutely they do. Let's go out west. Who is the coach to you that you admire?
Out west.
West is killing him.
I think it's going to be Mark Few.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Mark Few.
Why?
For the same reasons. Mark Few is just a winner. He's come to Gonzaga and he's become this winner, and he's put kids into places to win. Karnowski and others they've made great teams over and over and over again. It's more so about getting over the hump.
Right.
And the difference between Mark Few and between Jay Wright is that Mark Few actually has a lot of sketches he's going to draw up to put his players in great position to win. So Mark Few is the guy with the most talent, with the best coaching insight, and he's been here a few times and lost enough to maybe finally get over that hump.
I believe you, and does it with a balanced team. The low, they're great. They've got Nigel Williams, Goss, so I love how complete they are. I'm going to go with, I forget who we go with. I'm going to go with Mike Bray. Another system guy, and they're not big. They do not have Gonzaga's length. They do not have their height. But the fact that they play this wide open offense, I think they're starting a 6'5" center, Bonzi Colson.
Bonzi Colson's a dog.
He is. He's great. He's fun to watch. And you know what? If Notre Dame is a Sweet 16 team, they're going to make the Elite Eight just because Mike Bray is that coach who will find wins where there are no wins. He will yank a win out of the mud. And I respect that. I appreciate that. Another system guy without the height, with that limitation, I really like Mike Bray and this Notre Dame team.
And that's also another team that you kind of don't want to bet against. The last few years, Notre Dame has been excellent. Stevie Vastoria, out of St. Joe's Prep Philadelphia himself, they're saying is now a wing defender.
Yes.
Great shooters up and down the lineup, and Bonzi Colson's had a great March. So Hey.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the Midwest. Which coach to you exhibits the most impressive ability?
If Rhode Island's out in the Midwest, I think it's going to be Danny Hurley.
Wow.
Danny Hurley is a gritty, under-the-radar coach who's
True.
had E.C. Matthews and others. E.C. Matthews had that ACL injury a year ago, and URI has not really been able to live up to how good they are. But it's their year. It's time as an 11th seed for Rhode Island to really stick it and do it, because E.C. Matthews is not only making dudes fall, he's dunking on your favorite player.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be one if it's a 6-11 matchup to bet against Danny Hurley in Rhode Island.
Yeah, no, that defense is ridiculous. It's really fun to watch. I'm going to stay homer. I'm going to go Dana Altman. He wins the Pac-12 regular season once again with talent that is not UCLA's, is not Arizona's, and he keeps winning. He's taken this team to the brink of almost another 1 seed where they were last year, and now has the challenge of doing it without one of their rotation players, probably their 3rd best player overall in Chris Boucher. And so impressed with what this team is able to do on both sides of the floor. Defensively, they're one of the top teams in the country, and if they are making their threes, and they're a volume shooting team, they are just about unbeatable. So I think what Dana Altman has done in Eugene has been crazy impressive. So that's my pick there. Let's go to the South, a number of really good coaches. Who is your coach in the South?
Young Baby Patino.
Nice.
Minnesota Gophers, the Golden Gophers. Between Amir Coffey and them, it's a great team. A team that I watched about 2 years ago when Larry Brown was still coaching SMU and the NIT, and it was his first year, and that was a great team. And Baby Patino was basically saying, hey, man, I came in here, we did well, and we're going to consistently do well.
But not his players.
Not his players, right. So the next year in this recruiting class, they get kind of trash. They do pretty poorly.
Yeah.
And there's thoughts around it that, is he going to stick? Is he going to stay? Is he a coach just like his dad was? Come back, a 20-plus win team, scorching the entire conference.
Right.
Minnesota is a sleeper team that can do really well, become a Sweet 16 team this year.
Maybe overseeded, but I'm excited to see what the Gophers can do, because he is that good a coach. I'm going to go with Greg Marshall. There are 4 teams nationally that finish in the top 20 of Ken Palm's ratings offensively and defensively. It's Gonzaga, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Wichita State. Wichita State, again, the consistency of the Shocker. I don't think they're going to the Final Four. I don't even think they're probably going to the Elite Eight. But they've got a very tough first-round matchup in Dayton, and if nothing else, Greg Marshall, and is he the most likable human in the world? Maybe not. Maybe Greg Marshall isn't, but this team, the consistency with which this team plays, I mean, they had Ron Baker and Clay Anthony early a little while ago, and they were, of course, great. They don't have that talent level, but once again, they played at such a high level week in and week out. We don't know test-wise what they've been able to do against better competition, but it has to be said that what he has done in Wichita is crazy impressive.
It is, but it worries me that this is a team that is still taking L's to Illinois State.
Yeah, not great.
So,
not the best.
Ain't the best, man.
On the subject of their first-round matchup against Dayton and Archie Miller, when we go out east, who is the matchup? What is the matchup that you want to see this opening couple days?
I think if out east is Marquette in South Carolina.
It is. It is indeed. You want to see 3-pointers.
I think it's Marquette in South Carolina. Steve Wojciechowski out in Marquette. Got that right.
Absolutely, you did.
That Marquette team is not necessarily the best team, as they're now a 10 seed, but they've shown a lot of promise and sparks and flashpoints this year to say that maybe down the line this Marquette team will be good, but Marquette's back in the dance. How could you not want to see them play? At the same time, Sindarius Thornwell was the best player in the SEC for South Carolina, a South Carolina team under Frank Martin that has been recruited extremely well. Chris Silva, PJ Dozier, and others. Absolutely. This has been a very, not a dynamic team per se. They can be a little bit slow, but it's pushed Kentucky, it's pushed Georgia, it's pushed many other teams in the SEC, actual good teams in SEC basketball, and they're a fun team to watch. And Sindarius Thornwell could give your favorite player 30.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm trying to watch.
Yeah, if he is on, they're as fun a team to watch as there will be in the first round against a tough Marquette team. I'm totally agreeing with you there. Let's move on to the West. I really like, I'm gonna look up again. I really like this Northwestern and Vandy matchup. Why? Because you can't say Northwestern's back in the tournament. No, this is the first time, and they're probably going to lose to Vanderbilt.
They're going to get smooth swept up.
And I'm just here for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. That's the only reason I'm here. And Vandy's a good story, too, with the first-year coach, you know, showing success. If they win a first-round matchup, they're already better than they've been recently.
In the last few weeks, that Vandy team has beat up on a few teams like Florida.
Absolutely, they have.
Trash Casey Hill. They beat up on a few people. So I wouldn't all the way get rid of them, but they'll win one game and probably get kicked out.
All right, what is your pick out west?
I think Maryland Xavier. This Maryland team has been weirdly good, but weirdly not good.
Okay.
Melo Trimble is another guard that's going to be great this year. Well, not even this year, but more so in March. But Xavier, even though they've lost their lead guard, they've still been good. Trayvon Blewett and others, they've been I wouldn't even call them a great team. They've just been a good, solid team. And I want to see if this Xavier team, who still has the talent, still has the coaching, could maybe make a run, maybe be a Sweet 16 team that the Big East doesn't think about. So.
Yeah, barely getting in, but certainly if they have the momentum, they can get far. Let's go now to the Midwest, perhaps one of the best offensive matchups, if not the best offensive matchup in the opening round of the tournament. Michigan, Oklahoma State, star power.
Star power there. Juwan Evans from
Yes.
Oklahoma State is a guard. I saw him about 2 or 3 years ago.
In the vein of almost a Frank Mason, just a shorter guy, stout, and just a total leader.
But a much better defender.
Yes.
Much better on-ball defender, especially when it comes to steals. And he's just a dog. He is just a dog. I saw him a few years ago at the Reebok Challenge in Philly. Again, best city in the country.
Best city in the country.
Best city in the country. And Juwan Evans is just a guy who, you know, he has court appeal. You see him play basketball, and you don't care about what the stats are. You don't care about what anything else is. You watch him play basketball because he's just a dog. So I really, really, really want to see Juwan Evans and see what he does, what this Oklahoma State team does. Outside of that, the team ain't really that good. So.
No. It's a one-man team, and if you did care about stats, you would care that he's averaging 21-8 since late January, which is not too bad. It's not bad at all. But yeah, there's going to be a ton of offense. I believe Oklahoma State finished the season as a more efficient offensive team than UCLA, which is not all that easy to do, America. It is not all that easy to do. So yes, it is Juwan Evans. He is the heartbeat of that team. All right, let's go to the South. To me, it's the Dayton-Wichita State matchup just because you have two great coaches. We've seen what Archie Miller has done recently. He hasn't taken another job, which makes me think he's probably angling for something bigger. Is there a matchup out in the South that intrigues you early?
I want to see Cincy and K-State.
Okay.
I only say that for this reason. This is not your granddaddy's Cincinnati basketball team anymore, America.
This is true.
This is not what it is. This Cincy team has firepower, actual offense, and it's been done through recruiting over the last 2 or 3 years. Gary Clark Jr. is coming from Hoop State, on top of Troy Copain, who's been here for the last few tournaments for Cincy, on top of Justin Jennifer, a great guard from Milford Mill, who just was putting on a showcase from the AAU market before he even got to college. There's guards up and down this roster as well as a very hard-nosed front court that's pulling out a lot of second-chance boards. The Cincy team is really good, and this K-State team, as Bruce Weber has said last night or the night before when they won their play-in game, is an underlooked team. And they've got guards, and they've got Bruce Weber, and Bruce Weber's fun. He's like your granddad at Thanksgiving. So, I mean, listen.
He's gotten to the national championship game. It was a long time ago.
It
was a long, long time ago. Thank you, everybody, for watching Wake Up College Basketball. Tyler has all of the knowledge. He has all sorts of knowledge. We're going to be here throughout the tournament after each round. So this coming Saturday, this coming Monday, and beyond. Thanks again for watching Wake Up College Basketball, presented by 4 Points Travel Reinvented. We'll see you soon.
See you, America.